If you grew up in the 90s or the 2000s, you have preconceived notions about what therapy is. Maybe they're conscious, maybe they're not. But even if you proclaim to be a proponent of therapy, right? Even if you participate in it, believe in it, even if you love it, something happened in those years and in the years leading up to it that made us believe that therapy is something that it is not. And many, many men these days are being told or compelled or talked about by their partners behind their backs that they need to go to therapy. But why is there so much resistance? What is it about therapy that so many of us resist or don't like or don't want? What is it that makes us uncomfortable around therapy as a culture, right? Not even just as men. And what is it that genuinely keeps us from entering into this kind of space, which really is only meant to be of service to us living a better and more enjoyable and more fulfilling life? In today's podcast, I want to help us see therapy for what it is and what it isn't, and how it can actually be one of the best choices we can ever make for ourselves and for our love lives if we hold it in the right way. And by the end of this episode, I want to help you understand what you can get out of therapy, what you can look for to make sure you found the right therapist for you, because yes, there are harmful therapists out there, and I will tell my story of that experience, but also how to approach it in a way that's going to best serve you and your relationship. And maybe this will help you talk to the person who you really want to go to therapy in your life too. This is Reclaiming the Gentleman. I'm Dave Lashansky. Now, whether you've been going to therapy for years or have thought about it or hate the idea of it or absolutely love it and can't get enough of it, I want to be clear. This episode is not about painting therapy as a cure-all or even as a necessity for all of us. What I want to convey in this episode is that the intention of these kinds of spaces, like therapy, coaching, men's circles, etc., the intention of those spaces is to help you access the means to your best and better self. And accessing that will often mean confronting shame, confronting fear, and this pervasive human desire to stay where we are, where we know we're safe, where things are comfortable and the terrain is familiar. Even if what we really want is on the other side of growth, that promotion, that girlfriend, the money, the success, whatever it is that we're really desiring deep down. Growing requires that we have more and better self-knowledge and self-awareness than you did before. I guarantee that. And I also guarantee that you already knew that. That's not complicated. But what gets in the way? I want to start by just narrowing down what we're talking about for this episode. So maybe let's start with a very basic description of the difference between therapy and coaching, and why I want to focus today's episode really on therapy. Therapy to me is the gateway to making coaching or men's work or whatever it is you're doing to improve yourself more effective, right? To help you be more effective in creating the life that you want. All of those spaces are for that. But in essence, and I'm probably going to do a future episode on this, therapy is where we go to address our history, right? I see therapy held and performed the right way as a powerful way to integrate the trauma from our pasts so that we can lead ourselves into more intentional and vibrant futures. Coaching has a lot of overlap with that. But the threshold for entry, right? The barrier to entry is higher for coaching, in my experience. A therapist is going to be cheaper. It's generally a lighter commitment, and you can go as needed for as long or as little as you need, usually, right? A licensed therapist is also specifically trained to work with big trauma, PTSD, complex trauma, etc. With a coach, you're usually working in a set container with the intention to specifically level up some part or aspect of your life and way of being. And I want to be clear that I love both, right? I invest heavily in both coaching and in therapy and in men's work and other modalities too. But to me, and especially for the purpose of this episode, therapy is the easiest and simplest, and for many men, the best way to get started moving some of the blocks that are keeping you stuck where you are. When something inside of you is telling you that you're destined for, that you need more. Okay? So today we're talking about therapy. Now, I want to dive into this with what I think is the biggest reason that we culturally resist embracing therapy. And that's this. We don't really understand what therapy is and how it's meant to serve us as a society. And this is really the crux of why I'm making this episode, because to me, this is how we get what we want in our lives and our relationships. This is how we move more men toward coming into better, deeper, more loving, compassionate connection with ourselves, for ourselves and for our partners. And understanding this nuance that I'm about to talk about therapy, I'm hoping can open a lot of doors for us. So, what do we understand therapy to be, and what actually is it? Big picture, I think the most important way we misunderstand therapy is that many of us view therapy as the solution, that therapy can fix us. And therapy does not fix us. And here's why. No one can heal the wounds that you won't address yourself. No one can heal inside of us what we won't open the doors to. And when you go to therapy, you're being taken on a journey to heal yourself. No one can do that for you. And no one can decide what's right for you, where to start, what needs addressing, what doesn't. Any great shift that you experience in therapy comes by allowing yourself to be in that space, fully surrendering to it, choosing it, right? You have to choose it in order to heal it. And when you let yourself be guided, shifts become possible. But I think most of us see therapy as a place where we go, where a trained professional fixes us by making us talk about things from our past. And by fix, I think we often think we'll have to rip open either the glaringly obvious flaws and deficiencies that we're terrified other people see in us, or the things that we're certain would make us unlovable if someone knew this about us. And most of us, I think, have some version of both. And I also think that we've constructed these narratives about therapy as a society over a really long period of time. And so much of our resistance and the ways therapy has been ineffective for us, even if we've tried it in the past, has to do with the misunderstanding. And I think this piece is really important. Because when we think that the therapist is the one that heals us, it puts the power and the effectiveness, and most importantly, the depth of the experience of therapy in someone else's hands, when really we should be and are in control of that. When we decide to talk about something that hurt with the right therapist, we get guided into ways of seeing and holding that experience that change how our nervous system and our behavior responds to the inputs that remind us of that moment or that can trigger that experience in us. You don't need a magic knower of truths about you to retrain and recalibrate yourself for a better and more present life. What you need is someone who will help you explore and hold yourself more compassionately, more lovingly, more honestly. And through this, holding yourself in a way that is more empowering to you in creating the life that you want. This is what we get wrong about therapy. It's about trusting someone to help you hold the parts of you that you didn't think you could love, you didn't think you could witness without dying or falling apart, the parts of you that you're afraid of or that you just haven't explored or don't see yet. It's a relationship with someone who can help you see yourself more clearly and more effectively. Yes, effectively, right? There's this common refrain about therapy that, people go to a therapist for years and just talk and feel like they're spinning their wheels. And there's this movie line, you'll hear it all the time, like, oh my God, you just helped me more in 2 minutes than my therapist has in 10 years. And I think this is another thing we really need to rethink about therapy, because so many people use it or think of it as the dumping ground for our stuff. Oh, I'll save that for my therapist. Oh, I go to my therapy to grieve or to cry. No. Therapy is where we go to receive the instruction for our healing. And while some of this happens in the chair when we're talking to a therapist, more than anything, I think we can start to think of therapy as the training ground, right? For the moment when we really want to have agency in our life, to decide something different for ourselves. That's not what happens in the therapist chair. That's what happens in life. Therapy is where we build the map and receive the instructions for our nervous system so that we can use it in a situation where previously we may have reacted out of fear, and now we want to choose how we respond. When we're forced to make a presentation at work, we don't heal that in therapy and then suddenly we're able to do it. We receive what we need. We understand what's happening for us in the scary moment through therapy, so that the next time we experience that, we have more agency, more ability to choose, or at least more awareness of what's happening for us. All of that is key to having more agency in life. But going to therapy, just being in the chair, spending the hours there, is not what changes that. It's how you use it. It's how you act on what you receive there. Therapy teaches us not just that it's possible to act differently, but it helps you uncover how to actually respond with intention in the ways that you really want to. This is such a different way of viewing therapy than I think the majority of our culture has. And I think we can all benefit from holding it in this way that I'm talking about. Right? Basically, in essence, therapy doesn't do the work for you. Therapy is your training ground for when the rubber actually hits the road, for the actual scary moment, for the actual hard conversation with your partner, for those tough or meaningful moments in your life where you want more access to presence, more access to you. We're not trying to have an office, have a space where we can be present. We're trying to find a therapist who can help us access that wherever we are, more often. And you might think you're already operating from this, but question if you're someone who goes to therapy, is this how you hold it? Is this how you treat it? It can change a lot. But I also want to be clear that not every therapist is going to be right for you. And not every therapist is even very good, right? And I have my own experience with this. Many years ago, in the midst of a lot of turmoil in my own relationship, when Vanna and I were both working through really intense parts of our histories, we started working with a therapist who we both thought we liked from the beginning and who was objectively pretty bad, looking back on it. And this was a time when we'd been fighting a lot and we needed help bringing the actual issues that were underneath those fights into light without getting stuck on all the little details that were covering up the real hurt that we'd been experiencing, which is a really good reason to go to therapy, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. But this therapist couldn't help us. This therapist could not help us parse the tiny stuff that still hurt from the big stuff underneath the hurt. This therapist never helped us see the other person and where they're coming from. She never helped us practice owning what it was that we were doing in these situations. And the reason she couldn't do this for us, the reason she couldn't actually help us, was that she never earned our trust. And in spite of that, she dug right into the painful stuff. She just went all into it. And she basically told us she wanted to learn both of our sides of the story and then immediately tore open the issues without giving us a chance to breathe, without really listening to each other or feeling heard by the other. And here's how we knew that we needed to make a change. Is that we'd leave these sessions hurt and mad. But during the sessions, we'd pretend that we were on board with what was happening. We trusted the process. But without saying it, we both knew the other one was stewing underneath it all. And after a few sessions, we started to feel even more alienated from each other. We'd leave the sessions just feeling heavy and disconnected, unheard and unacknowledged in our real experience, the stuff that mattered to us. And here's what we did wrong. We went into the situation expecting the therapist to fix our issues, expecting her to just make the conflict better. We shoved it in her hands and told her to drive, right? And honestly, this wasn't really our fault. We were struggling and we wanted help, and this is what we thought we could do. But we didn't take the time to build rapport and trust before launching into the painful stuff. And we both could feel that there was insecurity in the other when we tried talking about our upset, the things that hurt, the things that we were coming in with that we wanted to change. And now, I'm not saying that it should be easy, but we should have taken the time. And this is what I recommend everyone do, is take the time to check in, to see if you feel like you found the right person. And this is true for couples therapy and individual therapy too, right? After the session, check in with yourself. Do I feel like I'm moving in the right direction? Do I feel like this is actually serving me? And it might take some reflection to figure out, am I just afraid of what I'm talking about? Am I afraid of what's coming up here? Or am I actually touching into something that really matters? And this is hard, but I feel supported in it. I want to give you some parameters to help you decide if you're with the right therapist. Because your relationship with your therapist needs to be built on trust and intention. Someone just calling themselves a therapist doesn't make them trustworthy. So who should you look for in a therapist? First, I would say, find someone who resonates with you. There's a wonderful relationship expert whose work I really like, Dr. Nora Malzoun, and she talks about looking for a therapist that clicks with you. They make you feel seen in a way that moves you, that makes you feel like you can trust them. Find someone who makes you feel seen, who you click with. I think this is huge. Someone who both validates your experiences, but also challenges your perspectives too, right? And shows you genuine care and skill with that care is, to me, really all the parameters to look for in a good therapist. It's not super complicated, but don't get stuck waiting for the perfect therapist. And don't give up because you've found a few that don't work for you either, right? Therapy is one of the best tools in your arsenal for growing when you find someone who you click with. I think a great therapist will help you step into the big, scary stuff because they've earned your trust, right? And what they do is they guide you into stepping toward yourself more lovingly, toward your partner more lovingly, even when things are hard. They help you step toward accountability and responsibility and trusting yourself. A good therapist is going to have what it takes to help you rebuild and recalibrate all of that. So really check in with yourself after trying a therapist and decide if you feel safe and supported in that environment and whether you feel closer or just off afterwards. I think it should be somewhat clear to you both if you found someone right or if you found someone wrong. Look for the click. Notice if you feel off. And don't underestimate either. And in my experience also, I'll say that I have had the most resonance with therapists that practice what's called emotionally focused therapy, which is often called EFT, which is different from the tapping EFT, which is something different altogether, but emotionally focused therapy, and also internal family systems therapy. Both of those are really powerful, really beautiful, really compassionate and safe modalities. And so if you're unsure where to start, I think looking for an emotionally focused therapist or an internal family systems trained therapist is a really great way to start. Go to Psychology Today. It's a really basic, really broad database. You can also ask your friends who you know are doing the work for a good referral. And if you're here in San Diego, you can ask me. Just reach out, davelashansky.com. Now, to close out this episode, I just want to make one last plug for going to therapy. Because again, I know so many of us are either facing this conversation with someone we love or are struggling ourselves and unsure or even doubtful that therapy could work for us. So this is, in essence, why I want to encourage you to explore therapy and try it out. I think we are all living in a time where the norm is numbness, burnout, and disconnection. And growing through therapy is how we can transmute the pain that we've experienced into part of what makes us us. It's how we can transform our pain into our personal power, into agency. And no matter who you are, that has to be a part of your journey if you want to live a fulfilling life. Going to therapy, doing the work, is the difference between being inside of an experience, really present inside of an experience that can change you, that makes you feel alive and included and whole and loved, and watching that experience happen from the outside, dying to be a part of it, wishing there wasn't something inside of you keeping you from genuinely participating. And that can be parenthood, a holiday, your birthday, a party, a concert, or literally just walking in the park. Therapy offers us the means to transform feeling disconnected from what we think, what we know should move us and matter to us, and feeling really present to, really engaged with our life. You don't need to walk through life feeling like you're missing something inside of you that allows you to enjoy it. With help and guidance and surrendering to the fact that we all need help and guidance sometimes, you can learn, you can grow into an ability to tap into the feeling of fullness that maybe you get glimpses of when you're intoxicated or when you're with people who you feel really safe around or people you don't know at all, right? The freedom that you feel in those moments, that trust in the universe and what's happening for you can be accessed by you in any moment. You can do it sober. You can experience it for a long time. It doesn't need to be fleeting. The freedom that you want, the full experience of life, the wonder, all of the things that make your life more fun and more enjoyable, that make you a present, loving, powerful human, are accessible to you. And it can be more real to you than nostalgic. Your life can change when you open up to receiving help. When you allow yourself to risk being seen and known and really explore the hard stuff. I'm not saying this is easy, but I am saying it is way harder to try to do it alone. And you don't have to. And most of us don't even see all the ways that we try to do the work alone, that we try to heal ourselves and fix ourselves alone without help or guidance or perspective, which means without objectivity, which means it's really not helpful. And therapy to me is the best way to start. So I hope you feel a little more clear on how to help yourself or someone you love approach going to therapy. At least I hope you feel like you know a little bit more about what's possible for you in it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Reclaiming the Gentleman. If you're getting something from the show, share it with a friend who might need this kind of conversation in their life. I also want to mention that this podcast is produced and edited and crafted by me. I run a podcast production company called David Benjamin Sound LLC, where I help people launch shows that can change the world, shows that connect us, So if you're thinking about podcasting, we run a free workshop every month on starting a show, and I'd love to see you there. I also want to remind you to keep an eye out for the 21-day relationship program for men, because we are reopening those doors soon. So stay tuned, keep watching, keep listening, and thank you. Thank you for your notes and your shares and your messages about the show. Your feedback means the world to me. I wish you joy and expansion and connection in every corner of your life and relationships. I will see you in a week.